Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's session. My name is Irina, and I'm the event planner for the Redmond Reactor Space. Before we get started, I have a few things to go over. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience as well as our presenters. We encourage engagement in the chat, but please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Useful links will also be shared in the chat. This session is recorded and will be available on demand in 24 to 48 hours on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. Which brings us to today's session. The session will run approximately 1 hour with questions throughout, and I'll now turn it over to our speakers for introductions.
I be welcoming ye to this week's Sea of Nerds stream. And that's enough of doing that voice. Welcome everyone to this week's Sea of Nerds. If you joined us last week, you will know what we're doing, but if not, this is a live stream where I interview cool folks from Microsoft whilst we play video games. So you get a chance to learn what folks at Microsoft do, how they've been successful in their careers, get some career tips whilst watching them walk around carrying a cat, blow themselves up, or in Gustavo's case, get drunk and start vomiting. So welcome to the stream. We are playing Sea of Thieves. This is a pirate-themed video game that comes from a company called Aaaarrrrrr Games, owned by Microsoft. We, as well as making Office and Azure, we make games and as well. You may have heard of the Xbox. And in this game, we're going to be interviewing two graduate hires at Microsoft who have joined us over the past few years, and we're going to be getting hints and tips from them around the internships they did before they became graduates and what life is like as a graduate hire. You may notice somebody dropping on and off. Apologies, Gustavo's having a few internet difficulties, so we'll try and get Gustavo back, and we've got him back. Awesome. So I'm Jim Bennett. I'm a cloud advocate at Microsoft. It's my job to play video games live on stream, interview people, and get paid for it. It was described last week as the best job ever. And I want to introduce my crew today. So Sam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I am Sam Ronsky. I am Jim's counterpart in San Francisco, kind of helping empower the Bay Area to build and create cool things with Microsoft tech. So welcome.
Awesome. So Sam is my first mate today, but our two main guests, the two I'm very excited to have join us, is Tessa and Gustavo. So Tessa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I would love to. Thanks for having me. I've never done something like this before, but I'm very excited.
Awesome.
My name is Tessa. I am currently a program manager here at Microsoft. I help run the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Program and the Imagine Cup program as well. This is actually a pretty new role for me. For the past 3 years, I've actually been a software engineer on our education team, helping build products for students and teachers and reading tools and things like that. So recently made the switch over to program management, and I'm super excited to be here. But yeah, I was a Microsoft intern. I did the Explore internship in 2017, and then I did the software engineering internship in 2018. And I was a student ambassador myself my last year of school when I was at the University of Cincinnati. So I loved my experiences as an intern and as a student ambassador, and was really excited to join full time, and have had a great time since.
Awesome, thank you. And Gustavo, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Gustavo Cordeiro. I'm currently a cloud advocate in the spatial computing team. That means I work with all the cool stuff like virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. I joined Microsoft almost 2 years ago after I did an internship, actually working with Jim, who was my mentor during the internship as part of the academic team, it was called back then. Got to work with a lot of academic partners and bring some of the technologies that we were working on to them. And since I enjoyed doing that so much, I came back, and now I do the same, but with all the spatial computing related technologies, and still trying to work with academics, still trying to bring these cool technologies to students everywhere. But definitely a great experience so far. And I'm the one having the internet issues, so I'm trying to rejoin the game.
Do you want me to? Right, let me. Yeah, it still thinks you're disconnected. So if you join the game, you should be able to join back in. If not, I can send you another invite. Okay, so before we kind of kick off with the interview, let's actually do some piratical things. So what we're gonna do today is we have found a fort. Where is it? I saw it somewhere. I can't see it now. There is a sea fort out there that's laden with gold, and we're gonna go and rob it. So we're gonna get our boat going. We are going to sail to the sea fort. We're going to fight some ghost pirates. We're going to steal all their gold, because that's what responsible pirates do, is go and steal gold. So we're going to get our boat underway, and then we are going to start sailing, and then we'll start chatting. Now, I've got a whole lot of questions for our guests today, because there's so much cool stuff I am interested in. So apologies, we just posted some links in the chat that looks like they've been mucked up via Outlook's safe link protection. So if you wonder what that weird stuff in the chat is, we're trying to drop some useful links in for you, and they've got all the Outlook protection to avoid spam. So apologies if they look a bit confusing. Yeah, as I was saying, I've got a whole stack of questions for our guests, but this is your chance to ask our guests anything you like. If you want to learn how to get an internship, how to get a graduate role, what kind of things are available to interns, to graduates, what it's like working for Microsoft, put your questions in the chat, and this is your chance to ask absolutely anything of our guests. A couple of comments to the chat to mention. Mohammed says, excited for today's event, which is cool. Glad to have you here. Mohammed also says, hello, everyone. I'm a Microsoft student ambassador, and I'm from Pakistan. So great to have you here. Probably quite late for you, I imagine. We're on the other side of the world. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. So welcome. And Simin says, hi, everybody. So welcome, Simin. Glad to have you here. But yeah, so this is your chance to ask whatever you like, put your questions in the chat, and then as we're sailing around, we will answer those questions. So, Gustavo is now back with us. Hopefully not hitting the grog too hard. Yeah, when we played earlier, it would be fun to drink that, and unfortunately that makes you throw up. So our anchor is up. Sam, do you want to take the helm? And let's start bringing some sails down, and let's...
I am not a good pirate, but
Oh, your sail is cool.
Oh, why can't I set my sail length? Now they're setting the angle. They're pretty cool sails, aren't they?
Yeah, those are neat. Do you need any help?
You want to keep a lookout, I guess.
Look out for things that are trying to hurt us?
Yeah, because this is an open world game, so there could be anyone trying to attack us.
Pirates.
So,
what's with the giant glowing tornado?
Let's have my volume down.
That is a world event.
Looks scary.
It's interesting. It's lots of fun. Takes a bit of time, though.
So I guess, Gustavo, one question for you. You involves a lot of spatial computing, and that kind of overlaps with the metaverse. This game, would you say this is almost like the entertainment metaverse in some ways?
Yeah, to be honest, I feel like the term metaverse has been used for a lot of things lately that I believe were already existent before. Like this kind of games are kind of like their own kind of metaverse at this time. So I would say that there's been many of these, like, you know, the massive multiplayer online games and things like that, such as this one. They tend to represent what everyone's thinking of the metaverse. So yeah, probably ahead of their time.
Because we think about like the metaverse. So Microsoft Teams, for example, we're looking to kind of bring the metaverse into that, and those kind of talks about they can kind of interact with communication software in the metaverse in alt space. But really, that's what we're doing. We're in a virtual world and we're chatting.
Exactly, and it just comes down to what you would want to define as the metaverse. If you want to define the metaverse as a digital, completely immersive world, and something like a game like this is definitely an instance of the metaverse. If you want to define it as just a specific location, then if we're talking about a specific meeting space or specific area that you want to join with your friends that also is a metaverse. So right now we're lucky to be in a very early stage of this whole new wave of computing. So it's I guess more open-ended to what everyone wants to define as a metaverse.
Because yeah, still not something that's been strictly defined, is it? It's
exactly. It's still like a very loose term. It sounds very cool though, but it's definitely very open-ended still.
Oh, we are being shot at. I think something's happened. We'll just raise the sound bit so we don't overshoot. Oh, we're currently being shot at. So there's cannons flying in. If you know how to repair the ship, let's have a look around.
We
grab
need some wood.
Yeah, grab
Where's
some
the
wood. There should be a wood barrel below decks.
Yeah, under deck. Yeah. And what do I do to the wood?
I'm not seeing any leaks. I think we're all right.
We're good. You can drop the anchor if you'd like.
Okay, someone drop the anchor if they're nearby. I'll do it.
This is like very dark.
Yeah.
Oh.
So if you open up your inventory, you have a lantern you can open up.
Perfect.
Right.
That's what I need.
And we are taking on water. It sounds
Sweet.
Oh.
Right.
Wait, do we have a leak?
We do have a leak. I've just repaired the leak. If you want to grab... Oh, thank you, whoever got the bucket. Thank you. So I guess one question was we're about to board. One question came from our student ambassadors, actually. Very kindly, our student ambassadors sent in a stack of questions for us. What is your career plan? As in, how fast or slow should a person move through the hierarchy at Microsoft? I thought this was kind of a great question. Yeah, speaking as your current ship's captain, love to know kind of your views on this. What is your plan for your career, and how fast do you think you can or want to move up the ladder, or do you want to move up the ladder? Tessa, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, that is a very good question, and a question I ask myself a lot too. I don't know, I feel like in school, like you always know exactly what is next. Like, you know that you have another semester next, or you might have an internship, or you know that you're graduating and then you need to find a job. But then you get to being a full-time employee and you're like, what do I do next? There's so many options. It's overwhelming. At least that's how I felt. And so it was a lot of reflecting for me of, well, where can I start out? And for me, I did a computer science degree and I did software engineering internships, and I wanted to try to be a software engineer because that's the typical path that you go from that major. So I tried it out and never really knew exactly how long I would want to do it for. But I think there was always something in the back of my head saying, I'm not sure if I want to be super technical for my entire career, but I had no idea what that was going to look like moving forward. So I've kind of so far just taken the approach of, am I happy where I am right now? Am I growing and learning in the ways that I want to be? And kind of checking in with myself every few months and checking in with my manager and my mentors as well on that progress. And then when the answer was, no, actually, I'm not very happy in this role anymore, then it started like, where do I want to go next? And I've kind of just been taking it one step at a time so far. I don't know if I have like a super big plan of the future, except for continuing to check in with myself and seeing if I'm happy and still learning and growing the way I want to. So I don't know if that's the best answer from someone looking for like a long-term career plan, but that's not something I have right now.
I really like that answer, actually.
Yeah, I don't know how to follow up that answer.
So I think kind of the biggest point there is you don't have to set your career path on day one. Yeah. That's kind of I think the biggest takeaway from that is you can try something and then you can move around. And one advantage of big companies like Microsoft is we employ like 140,000 people. We have so many different options. So if you do you're doing engineering for a while, and go, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. Yeah. What you can do is you can then change to program management, and then you can go, you know what, I want to try business development, or I wanted to go back to engineering, or I want to engineer in a different team. You've got so many different options because you're already there. So you don't need to
Yeah.
set like a long-term career path. You can in some ways take it as it comes.
Yeah.
It's kind of the value of working for a big company, really. You work for a small company, and sometimes there are no options to move.
Exactly.
Yeah. Definitely agree. That was one of the big draws of Microsoft to me, was that I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that there were a lot of opportunities at Microsoft doing a lot of different things. When I was an intern, I got to talk to a few different people at Microsoft that had been at Microsoft for like 20, 30 years. And I would ask them, like, why have you stayed at the same company for so long? And more or less, part of their answer was always that it hadn't felt like they've been doing the same thing for the past 20 years, because it's such a big company and there's so many opportunities to not only like move teams and work on different types of technologies and products, but also different types of roles, and really get like a wide variety of experiences. So that was something that was really appealing to me, not having a super clear idea of what I wanted to do.
Awesome. Gustavo, any thoughts you want to add?
Well, before I get killed by ghosts, yeah, I think Tessa honestly nailed it. It's hard to think of like long term. I would say when you're early in career, because you're trying to like also learn as much as you can. So, and you don't have a direct end goal like she said, like when you're in school. But once you're starting to discover the things that you enjoy doing, that kind of helps you guide yourself. So far I've discovered that I really enjoy the engineering part of my job. So whenever I get to build things and code, I'm usually the happiest. So I definitely know that I want to stick to something like that. I would say that at this point I could see myself working in engineering for a long time. Definitely would try to go up and like improve my knowledge to the point that I feel like I'm more useful to the team I'm in, and so on, and hopefully mentor new people as well, so that they can take advantage of the things that I've learned as well. Because I feel like if I just hoard all the knowledge for myself, there's really no takeaway from that. It's much better if I get to use it or share it in the future. So yeah, I would say that probably staying the same thing that you enjoy is a good call as well. If you already found it, it's completely okay if you haven't found it yet and you still want to explore. That's a good thing about being here. It's not as easy. It's easier to change careers once you're graduated than when you're in school, because when you're in school, you already kind of committed to classes, already committed to maybe a certain pathway, and then if you discover you didn't like it and you want to start over, you kind of have to start over from zero. In this case, we have the advantage of not having to start at zero.
So I guess that kind of leads on to another question, really, is what does Microsoft offer for graduates to help them find that right role? Oh, I'm dead.
I'm dead too.
Yeah, I'm dead too. Are we all going to be on the same ghost ship?
I'm sorry.
We'll be on the same ghost ship, yeah. So yeah, because obviously you're both hired as graduates. There's kind of you don't kind of pick the perfect role when you're a graduate. In some ways, we get hired, you try it out, got the opportunity to kind of learn a bit more. So how does it work for graduates? How does that process work? How does they help you find a role? What kind of support do you get as a graduate hire?
Yeah, so
yeah,
you can go.
So you go first.
Okay.
Too good.
So for me, when I joined into a program called the Aspire program, and it's a newer program where anyone that's hired straight from university gets put into this. It's like a 2-year-long program, and at the beginning there's like a conference for all of the university hires that recently joined, and then there are events and support and resources throughout. And I thought that was a really great like continuation of the intern program, where as an intern you get so many resources and benefits like thrown your way, but then for a while there was a gap apparently of people that were then getting hired full-time and didn't have those same resources. So that Aspire program was really great to not only give me resources and help me kind of figure out what was even available to me, but it also connected me to a bunch of other university hires, a bunch of other aspirers is what they're called, and made a lot of great friends and connections that way, which was really great. And then depending on like what team or what org you're in, Some of them have early and career groups as well, and they host events and all sorts of things like that. And if your group doesn't have something like that, there's resources to help you start one as well. And then kind of just like leaning into the fact that you're new, and your team should have onboarding resources for you and should have training materials for you and should help you learn the types of things that you need to learn. So just really leaning into that and asking for help when you need it, and giving yourself permission to be okay with not knowing everything and to ask for that help when you need it.
Which I guess is quite intimidating because Microsoft, you've got people who've been there 45 years in some cases. So there's a lot of knowledge, and sometimes on a daily basis we interact with people who are very much internet famous, and it's sometimes hard to be that vulnerable and say, I have no idea what this is all about, please help me. So it's kind of nice that we've got frameworks up to encourage that, to actually encourage you to have that growth mindset. I think we talked about this on the stream last week. We talk about growth mindset not as a cheesy corporate idea, but as an actual thing that is of value. We all want to learn and grow, and if everyone embraces it, then you can get experts helping beginners grow. It's a really good philosophy. Some questions come through the chat, which I want to take. A few comments. So Simin says it looks pretty cool. So obviously Simin's a big fan of the game. So glad you're enjoying this. Yep. Sea of Thieves is a pretty cool game.
I have a question. What do I do with this key that I grabbed?
Come here. I can find you.
Yeah, head downstairs and you can unlock the treasure room.
Yeah, I grabbed it by mistake, and now I'm like, I'm being useless.
So we've killed all the skeletons, or the ghost pirates. So we can now start robbing the treasure. So a question came through from Rich Princess, asking, all students required intern experience of software engineering or developer before they apply for graduate hire. So do you need to be an intern before you can apply to be a graduate at Microsoft?
No, you don't, actually. You don't need to be an intern to apply to a graduate role. You actually don't need to have graduated yet to apply. If you're close to graduating, I think a year from whatever you are right now, if you're close to graduating, that you can literally just apply to any of the graduate roles. So you definitely don't feel like you need to, like you lost your chance if you did an intern here before.
I mean, internships definitely help. Maybe not. You don't necessarily have to do one at Microsoft, do you? If you can do internships at other places, it would still help.
Sure. Yeah, no, they're definitely helpful, but you don't need one to actually apply. So don't be discouraged if you haven't had the chance of having one, because it's not easy also to get one. So there's multiple chances and multiple opportunities.
Yeah, I have a handful of friends that work at Microsoft that weren't interns at Microsoft at all, and then a lot of friends who were interns. So it's definitely possible either way.
But also there's other opportunities you can take to get yourself to the top of the pile. I think that's one of the things to consider is you are competing with a whole load of other candidates. When you apply for a graduate role, there's a lot of people who want to work for big tech companies like Microsoft, the FANGs or the mangas or whatever you want to call them. There's a lot of demand for those kind of roles. So when you come to apply, you need to think about how you can put yourself ahead of the game, which is where programs like the Student Ambassador Program, for example, that comes in really well. We've hired a number of folks. I mean, Tessa, you're one example of this. We've hired a number of folks who've been part of our Student Ambassador Program because it shows there is kind of a commitment to growing people's knowledge, to doing more outside the realms of your degree.
Yeah, and that's what I tried to focus on, like in my interview for the internship and when I was negotiating my full-time offer. I tried to focus as much as possible on not only like the work that I had done in the internship and the classes that I've been taking and things like that, but really what makes me different from all the other people in my classes and what makes me unique and what passions I bring. And for me, I was always the type of person who I was really involved in student organizations and helping run events and volunteering and things like that, and was less of the type of person that wanted to like go build my own web app or build my own computer or something like that, like a lot of my peers were doing that. And sometimes I felt like, oh, maybe I'm not doing the right things because I'm not doing what a lot of my peers are doing, or I'm interested in other parts of the tech community besides just the technical pieces. And I just leaned into that because I was like, that's what makes me different. And that's what I can bring to a team, is a little bit of a different experience. Like, yes, I still have the technical experience. I've still done the classes. I've still done the internship, but yeah, just like really taking the time to consider what makes you different. And if you don't have something like that, there's so many different resources and types of things you can look into and kind of figure out like what you're interested in and what makes you excited about working in tech. So yeah.
That's one of the things we talk about when it comes to hiring is come as you are, do what you love.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of our diversity idea of, it's not just about diversity of different genders, gender identities, races, etc. Sometimes it's diversity of backgrounds, skills, experience, because everyone can bring something different to the table.
Indeed.
I mean, I've got a degree in chemistry, and here I am. I've done 20 years of engineering and advocacy. We've had people on the team who have been theatre studies majors, who've done, been on stage performing. So you need a good range of backgrounds for the people that are on the team, because they all bring different ideas to what you're doing. So you don't want to have every single student being like cookie cutter, identical, done the same thing. You want to just do what you love, because you need to show passion, don't you? If you're being interviewed and you say, yeah, I did this and I was bored by it, it's not going to stand you in good stead, as opposed to kind of bringing, I did this and I loved it and I had fun and it was great. Which leads on to another question, actually, from Mohammed, saying how to ace the interview and what the interviewer is looking in candidates specifically. Think about an internship interview here. Obviously, I know you touched on this with, you've done something that you love doing and you've got things you're interested in. But what other tips have you got to ace the interview?
I can give some context on at least the software engineering internship interviews, because I interview for that position. I actually run
actually hearing it from the person who's on the other side here.
Yeah. So basically, I would say that the main thing with any software engineering related interviews, you'll have to do a whiteboard, what we call whiteboard interview, which means you'll have to be given a problem and you'll have to code a solution to that problem. But it's not so much about the solution as it is about the way you think and you approach the problem. So what we try to look for as interviewers is basically you having the ability to communicate and kind of like express your thought process while you're solving the problem. So if you don't reach a full solution, that's okay. I personally don't care too much for the final solution. I care more about the communication and collaborative process that the interview represents. So once you're interviewing, you'll notice that the interviewer will ask you a question, will provide a problem for you to solve, but he or she will be trying to guide you through it. They'll try to give you some advice. They'll try to ask you questions about how you think about certain approaches, maybe certain solutions. And we want to know how your thought process and your knowledge kind of translates into a real world position. Because the thing is that, to be honest, we don't expect anybody to be an expert when they're hired, especially not even less as an intern. We expect you to have the basics, but we expect you to be really good at communicating. And I would say that the next thing would be to be very clear on your thought process and have a very I would say a genuine interest in learning and growing. Because if you show that you're able to formulate certain solutions, but you're also open and welcoming of new solutions or new avenues that we may propose as an interviewer, we can already see that you have some of these growth mindset ideal that we're looking for. So there's definitely a lot of options to do well, but definitely work on communicating, focus on collaborating with your interviewer and showing that you can express your thought process well. It doesn't matter if you get to solve the problem or not.
So I'm just going to jump forward actually to a question from Napalm684, which I think is relevant. Saying, I know this is new grad focused, this session, but any advice for experienced professionals? So would you say that's the same advice that you've just given for intern interviews? How much of that applies to experienced professionals?
I would have to see how experienced, because I myself haven't gone through like that level of experience. So if someone at a senior or principal level would ask me for advice, I don't think I would be qualified to provide. But I believe that as an experienced professional, most of the concepts are very similar. I definitely know that once you're at a higher level of experience, you'll be expected to be more knowledgeable in system design and higher level picture problems and questions. But I believe the core of it will remain the same. It's all about being able to share the way you think in a, I guess, eloquent way, and also being able to also share the knowledge that you have in a way that doesn't just come from your resume, that you can actually like show that the knowledge that you have or you're showing in your resume is real, is there in a way. But yeah, I would definitely not want to advise someone that's way above my experience.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've been through those interviews. Yeah, I joined as a senior level, and a lot of it was communication. You know, my interview was for developer relations rather than software engineering, and this was back when Microsoft was just starting to build a developer relations team, so they were still very new to working out what dev role should be. But again, communication was one of the key topics. It's how do you communicate with developers? How do you do this? You know, and can I successfully communicate what I'm trying to do and my ideas, my thoughts to the person I'm with? And then can I learn from them, think about their ideas and kind of reapply them? So kind of communication skills. Again, if anyone watched the stream last week, which is available on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube, this was what came from. So Jennifer Ritzinger, who's my boss's boss, this is what she was saying. Communication is kind of one of the key skills. So that comes through would need to come through on your interview. Now, I think we just robbed this fort blind. I think we've got everything, haven't we? There's nothing left. We've robbed it all.
I didn't see anything else.
So should we we got plenty of time actually. Should we just sail to a random island and see if we can find some treasures to dig up?
Yeah.
Sure.
And
let's do it. Let's bring up the map.
I want to use my shovel.
I'm also drunk.
Gustavo's drinking. Okay, so if we let's head to the Lagoon of Whispers. That's pretty much straight behind us. We need to head.
Whiskers or whiskey?
Whispers, Lagoon of Whispers.
Oh,
not the Lagoon of Whiskey, because Gustavo's hitting the grog already. So that's southeast. So
oh no, I'm vomiting. Oh no.
Where are you?
Oh no.
Where are you?
Oh no.
Nice. Okay, we're just gonna head southeast. While we're doing that, David says a few things. Said hello, loving the hat. Thank you very much. It be me finest hat. And yeah, David's a great question from Mohammed. We're all curious because a lot of people are curious about how to get into to working for Microsoft and big tech companies. Simin has some questions. So hi, it's great to meet everyone here. I have a question regarding landing a full-time job. I'm going to have a virtual on-site next week. I'm curious what have you done to prepare for your interview that you think will be super helpful? So what advice can we give Simin for a virtual on-site?
First, congrats on even like landing an interview. That's amazing.
Indeed.
I think
Definitely.
that's like
Congratulations.
one of the biggest things for me is recognizing how far you've come to even just like get that opportunity to do that, and really like being proud of yourself. Because I think for me the biggest thing was like self-confidence, and if I'm not confident in myself, like how is somebody that's interviewing me going to view me? So like taking time to reflect on how far you've actually come and the skills that you do have is always something that I try to do before any sort of interview or something important like that. And the other thing that helps me with my self-confidence is preparing as much as possible. So for me, that looks like looking up potential interview questions like online. Like there's a bunch of sites where you can go see what other people have been asked in the past. Talking to my peers and other people that I know that maybe work at that company, what they were asked, what to kind of know what to expect. And then from there, I build up a list of potential questions that I could be asked. And I sit down and I write out in sentences or bullet points or something like that, like the answers to those questions, because it's not like I'm going to sit in the interview and read off of it, but having that exercise as a way to find the things that I want to talk about, make sure that I have words that are coherent and sound nice and it doesn't just sound like I'm rambling. Just having those like stories that you can pull from of how you've had impact on a team, how you've worked with others, how you've communicated with others in the past. Just like having that bank of answered questions helps me feel more confident and more prepared going into it. And on the technical side, I was super nervous about like the technical sides of my interviews. And I found someone who, at the time when I was a student, I found someone who was a year older than me in the program who had a lot of experience with technical interviews and was really strong in data structures and things like that. And I just straight up asked him if he wanted to help me prep. And I offered to like pay him to help me, but he was like, just bake me some cookies or something and I'll help you. I was like, okay, deal. And just having someone like walk through an interview with me and give me feedback on how I was doing. And there's all sorts of different sites and things where you can practice different answers, and the classic cracking the coding interview book. Just as much practice as I could give myself so that when the time came to actually do the interview, I felt as confident as possible, basically, is the theme of my answer.
So it's proper preparation prevents pretty poor performance, as it were, the 6 Ps. So it's be prepared and be good at baking cookies.
Exactly.
That's basically what you're saying. The cookie side is probably very important here. But no, I mean, you're right. So, I mean, Simin, definitely congratulations. It is an amazing achievement to get this far. It's have confidence in yourself because you've got this far. This is a good sign. So definitely good luck. We're all rooting for you. Good luck with this.
Yeah, everyone wants interviews to succeed and for people to do well.
Yes.
So just keeping that in mind, and keeping in mind that like the person who's interviewing you is probably also nervous. Like it's also a big deal on their side. So just knowing that everyone's on the same page, everyone wants you to succeed is helpful to keep in mind too.
Yeah, I mean, we have kind of interview frameworks that we're kind of trained up on. And one thing that is hammered into us as we go through this process is, as Tessa says, we want you to succeed. So our job is not to trick you. Our job is not to catch you out. Our job is to get you to the place where you can succeed. We want to do our best. Obviously, we don't want to get you to succeed if you're not the right fit, but we want to do our best to make sure that, yes, you can be successful. We want to allow you to kind of fall into that pit of success rather than catch you out. We don't want to do the brain teasers that trip you up or questions like that. That's not what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like we honestly, when we interview somebody, we're definitely not trying to trick anyone. We're not trying to make it hard on purpose or anything like that. In fact, we are encouraged to choose intermediate problems instead of hard ones. So people have more time to express and talk with us rather than focus on the problem only. Because some of the hard problems, you kind of need to almost memorize them to do it properly in 30 minutes. So make sure that you have enough to show who you are in those 30 minutes, and don't focus too much on the technical side of things as much as you may be led to believe.
One thing I would add is saying I don't know is totally cool. Like that's totally a fine thing to do, and say I don't know. Here's some questions I would ask. Here's how I would find the answer or try to learn more. But not knowing everything is fine.
Indeed.
Right, I've just found a skeleton that was shooting me. So I wonder if we'll better find a map somewhere to dig up some treasure. If not, we can sell somewhere else. So another question, just staying with this interview theme, and the question from Rich Princess is: how many rounds of interviews is typical generally for graduate hires? Now, I know for full-time hires, we usually have an informational where you do like a 1 hour chat or half-hour chat with the manager, just to kind of sound you out, sound the job out, make sure that it's the same. And then we normally do an interview loop of 4 1 hour interviews. But what's it like for a grad role or an intern role? What's the interview process?
I would say I kind of speak from the intern part of things. For interns, usually the loop is a couple interviews. I would say 2 technical interviews is usually enough. Back when I interviewed before the whole pandemic happened, most of the interviews were in person, and it would take from 2 to 4 different technical interviews. But usually just a couple interviews that you'll do once you've landed them. They'll probably back to back. So you'll interview with 2 different people. And these 2 people are like they will meet beforehand, and they'll let you know. They'll talk within themselves about what they want to go over. So you may get one interview that's not that technical, while the next one is, or the opposite. Because we're both working as a team trying to figure out what kind of fit you are for the company. But the process really doesn't take much more than 2 interviews at one day for an internship. I believe for graduate it may be like 4. I've only done 1 graduate interview so far, and it was 4 different interviewers. But besides that, it's usually 2.
Cool.
Yeah, from my experience, the same. Some sort of screening to make sure you're a good fit, and then like a half day of a few interviews with different people that are about an hour long.
Right, it's not much in this island. Should you hop back on the boat and sail somewhere else?
Sure thing. I mean, I got some fire bombs. I wouldn't say there wasn't much. Wait, can I turn the bottom fire if I throw this?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Please don't.
Let me put them back.
Oh, you can bring them. They're useful for setting up.
Yeah. I just had it in my hand and I got scared.
Right. Should we sell?
What is this trident of the dark tides? This sounds cool.
That's quite useful for shooting people with.
Shoot people with this? Oh my god.
Simin says, thanks for this helpful advice. I'll prepare cookies for you if I get an offer. So there you go. If Simin gets an offer, we are getting cookies. Yes. We are going to hold you to that.
No, but we have to ask what kind of cookies?
Yeah, that's an important question. What kind of cookies?
We don't want oatmeal raisins.
Do you mind? How dare you?
Actually,
I'm an oatmeal
now
raisin.
that I'm thinking of it, it might have been brownies and not cookies. But I don't remember. I'll have to ask him.
I think you're going to have to cook for us. You're going to have to cook brownies and cookies for us, Tessa. So the question from MathCat here. What advice would you give to someone that comes from a non-computer science or engineering background? Context, I graduated in math in 2020 and have a few projects in Python, ML, and a good reference. I mean, I've got a degree in chemistry, so, you know. But yeah, Tessa, Gustavo, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of role you're interested in. If you're talking about specifically software engineering, or that's the thing about tech that I didn't realize is there's so many different types of roles while still being in tech, still working at Microsoft or other big tech companies. Like, for example, like cloud advocates, like that's a newer role, and developer relations and things like that. Like, you're still technical, but there are other skills that are valuable as well. And I'm sure you all can talk about it more than I can because I'm not a cloud advocate, but or you can be like a project manager, product manager, program manager, all of those. It's still useful to have like a technical background because you're working with technology and to have that experience, but that's not the main part of what your job is day to day. So I think part of what you could do is, if you haven't already, explored the like careers site on Microsoft and like take some time to read about the different types of roles and what that might look like. And then for me, when I was looking for different types of positions outside of engineering, I did a lot of searching on the career site, and I was like, oh, I had like never actually heard of this before. And so I just searched, and I found a few people on YouTube who did like a day in the life of a the XYZ role at Microsoft or at different places even. And I found those really helpful, or like blog posts of like what this role actually could look like. And just knowing that there are things outside of the typical like software engineering, I think was helpful for me to think of how I could best prepare myself for that moving forward.
I just think
so
about
guess,
math.
yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Tessa.
No, go ahead.
I was just say, think about a math background as well. I mean, there's a lot of computer science that involves math.
Yeah.
So, you know, especially if you've got a strong math background, you've done a bit of Python machine learning. I mean, machine learning is basically math.
Yeah. Data science, huge. Lots of roles in that.
Yeah. So with a strong math background, you're in a very good position.
Yeah.
The good thing is that it's not exclusive, though. You may not have the background, but if you develop the skills, you can also land a job in tech. Like you could have a degree in something completely unrelated, but if you've developed the skills and put time to learn them, you can definitely land a role still. Like we don't judge based on the degree you got, but on the qualifications you may have.
Oh, also something you can do that, like if you're trying to think of where you could go in tech based on the skills you already have, LinkedIn is, you can filter for so many different types of things. Like I'm sure there's a way where you can search for people that have a background in math, and then you can see what kinds of jobs they currently have or what their history was like. And you can also filter by like university. So maybe you can find alumni from your university that were in the same major and then reach out to them on LinkedIn and see if you can connect. The worst thing that happens is they ignore you or they say no. Best case scenario, you have another contact or someone that can help you figure out where you might want to go next and how to do that. But that's always a good resource too that I like to tell people about.
Because building your network is very, very important.
There's an island to your left.
I think that's the one we came from. I turned us around because I saw a boat coming past and I wanted to attack it, but it ran away.
Well, they would have sunk us. That was a Reaper 5.
Was that dangerous?
We got very lucky. They didn't want anything to do with us.
Oh, would they have sunk us?
Yes. Almost.
Jim wanted to kill them.
So there you go. If we have a degree in math, it's probably good for assessing whether or not we would lose when we play Sea of Thieves inside as part of our day job.
I was wondering what you were doing. I was trying to steer us away, and then.
Oh, I was going for it.
All right, cool.
See, communication is important. This is an example of when communication goes wrong, when people on the same team don't communicate. David is saying the sea is looking a bit spiky. Not too bad at the moment, because there's a chance that the Kraken could pop up and attack us, or Megalodons could attack. Where's Gustavo taking us?
I don't know. I saw this island and I wanted to go to it. But...
this is where we were before.
Oh, never mind.
We do have about 10 minutes. Do you want to head back and sell what we have?
Yes. Okay, so Gustavo, if you can point us north, we'll head towards the Golden Sands outpost and actually sell what we've got.
Okay, so north? I
yeah,
gotcha.
North.
I know how to read a compass, I promise.
Yeah. Okay. So Mathcat says, "Gotcha. Thanks for the advice." Yep. No worries. It's what we're here for today. So any more questions? Bring them here. Rich Princess said, "My school career specialist said if we have different major degree, we have to delete that degree for tech jobs. Is this true?"
No.
Nope, your school career specialist, unfortunately, isn't. I wouldn't say as much of a specialist. No. My degree's in chemistry. I work with someone who had a major in theater studies.
My manager has a degree in fashion design.
Yeah. Last week we interviewed Pablo, who is Tessa's boss, who's got a major in Spanish and Portuguese, and then Jennifer, Pablo's boss, has got a journalism major. So no, that's utter rubbish. Simin is curious what's inside the treasure chest. So these chests here, we can't open these. These we just sell and we get gold. We can pick up certain chests and use them to hide things like these skulls, but we don't have any of those, so we can't open those chests. But good question. Good question.
How do I parallel park this thing?
We'll raise the sails, and you are mostly good. So just keep going straight.
Yeah, so we'll raise the sails, which will slow us down. So a good question here, actually, and this is one I think the answer's not going to be as good as we would like to give, which is how great is inclusivity at Microsoft, particularly the female to male ratio? It's a question from our student ambassadors.
Yeah.
And I guess in your experience, how is it? How is our are we particularly inclusive? Do we have a good diverse range of employees?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that in every time I have to report on what I've done over the past few months, every person across Microsoft has to report on diversity and inclusion and what they're doing to foster that and to help further that in the company. So it's a huge pillar of the company and something that's often talked about. But there's a report that goes out every year about the different numbers and how we're actually doing on that. But it's a common theme and something that's top of mind for everyone all the time. But there's so much work to be done. And because Microsoft is such a huge company, like there are some groups and orgs and teams that are doing better than others. And like from my experience, I've never felt like I was treated any differently at Microsoft because I was a woman. I was one of the only women. For a long time in the past 3 years, I was the only woman on my engineering team. But I never felt like I was treated any differently because of that. And there's all sorts of resources for women in tech, women in engineering. Like my bigger education org had monthly meetings and resources, and we could go to women in tech conferences and things like that. There was budget for us to do that. So and then diversity in all sorts of other ways as well. There are resources and groups and things for that as well. So there's always work to be done and ways we can improve it. And like, for example, one of the ways that I like to try to foster diversity and inclusion, I love talking to interns. I was really passionate, like right before I left my education org, of trying to make our hiring processes more inclusive and seeing if we can move away from more of the algorithm type whiteboard questions and see if we can do an alternative interview style. That was something that my team was exploring. So there's lots of ways to get involved and to help with that, but it's definitely like a core pillar of the company.
I'm just thinking about the interview process. We've started autism hiring days. We actually have a whole dedicated day to hiring neurodiverse employees because the standard interview process doesn't work for everybody. You need an environment where if somebody is overwhelmed, they can say, I need 5 minutes. And so we can actually we've been setting up dedicated days to ensure that we can make the interview experience what the candidate needs, not what we want, which I think is very, very important. It's so easy to expect candidates to adjust to us, but we should be adjusting to candidates. Otherwise, how else do we get the best people?
Indeed.
And yeah, I mean, as you're saying about our connects, this is what we call it internally when we have our kind of review of the year. We all have to talk about our priorities around diversity and inclusion. And I'm just thinking from someone who's been at Microsoft for 5 years. I mean, right now in my management chain, 2 are women. Before this, I once had the point where the majority of my management chain was women. Microsoft has got a history of, we have a long history. So we've been around for 40 odd years. And obviously a lot of the attitudes from 40 years ago were prevalent in the company that was formed. So we're having to do a lot of work to try and get us to a more modern, a more acceptable way of being, I think. So there's still some pockets of old-fashioned ideas. I think it would be remiss of us not to admit this.
Yeah.
But we are trying to get around this. Another question from Rich Princess, actually. How to get a chance of interview by HR people first? I think HR people filter all the resumes.
Yeah, so I would say making sure that you are proofreading your resume and that there's no spelling mistakes, that the formatting is nice, that you're leaving enough white space so that it's not overwhelming to look at. Like those smaller things on top of obviously like the content of it, making sure that your resume is in a good spot, and then also that your LinkedIn is up to date, because I don't know if everyone listening knows this, but LinkedIn is also part of Microsoft. And so recruiters and people in HR at Microsoft often will also look at your LinkedIn. So if they can see that your LinkedIn is in line with what's on your resume, that's always a really good point. Make sure you have a picture on your LinkedIn. That really helps get the attention of recruiters when they're actively recruiting through LinkedIn, when they're looking for people. And seeing, there's just like interact with people on there, like posts things, comment, reply, show what you're passionate about through, you can kind of show a little bit more of your personality through your LinkedIn as well. So just making sure that's up to date is definitely, especially if you're applying for a job at Microsoft, very important.
I guess need to just make one terminology distinction here. So HR, kind of human resources, they're more involved in the day-to-day once you're an employee. So they're the folks who deal with making sure you get paid and things like that. It's actually the recruiters. So we actually have a team of a massive team dedicated to recruitment, sometimes referred to as talent acquisition. And they're the ones who you'd be wanting to impress with your LinkedIn profile and your good CV. And sometimes you actually end up having interviews with recruiters first. They do like some kind of screening to kind of find out where you'd fit. So you may end up with that interview with recruiters as part of the process. But yes, I mean, they do have to screen. We get, I hate to think how many thousand of applicants coming through. And I mean, I know one job where we advertised recently on a team that we work with had something like 650 applicants for the job. And there's no way a human can process that in any reasonable amount of time. So we have to do some kind of filtering. So you need to think about how you get your CV to the top of the pile.
I would say take advantage of the job posting as well. There's a lot of keywords there that you can use in your resume, and that it's easier for a recruiter to go through if it matches some of the key requirements of the job posting.
Yeah, something Pablo brought up last week actually was customize your resume. So don't have one resume that you bring up every single time. You customize it for the type of roles you're applying for. If it's just kind of a general internship role where you don't know what team it's going to be on, then a standard resume is fine. But as you kind of get more into applying for roles, if you know specifically what the role is, then you want to customize your resume for that particular role. Put those keywords in that are being looked for, just so you don't get filtered out. Cool. And with that, we've got like 2 minutes left. Simin says, Rich, don't delete your degree. I was a journalist before getting into the CS field and just completed my CS master's degree this summer. Also says, if you haven't done any projects yet, there are many open source projects on GitHub that you can follow. Hope this helps. Yeah, some great advice there, Simin. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, you want to make yourself highlighted above your peers, and things like contributing to open source is a great way to do this. So yeah, we've got like a minute left. So I just want to give our two guests a chance to do some parting words. So Tessa, Gustavo, what would be your one sentence advice to folks here? What are your parting words? Tessa, do you want to go first?
Sure. I would say parting words is finding the resources that you have in your community and maybe from your university or whatever other places you're connected to. If you don't know what resources you have available to you, ask someone. And more often than not, you probably have a lot more available to you than you even realize. So sticking with your resources and seeing what is all available to you, your network, like huge. It's like the classic saying of it's not what you know, but who you know. Huge one for me, and keeping up with that network, definitely. And then just like being nice to yourself and reflecting on how far you've come and how much you're capable of doing in the future, and really just like focusing on being nice to yourself, because it's something I'm still working on for sure. But we've all been through a tough few years, and good luck to everyone.
Awesome, thank you. Gustavo?
Yeah, I would say try to fight your nerves. It's okay. Like everyone gets nervous, but that doesn't mean that you should let them get a hold of you. Definitely believe in yourself and put effort towards getting what you want. You can do it. It's something that I still struggle with every now and then. It's this imposter syndrome, and I feel like we all trying to get it. But at the end of the day, you belong, and you will definitely achieve it if it's what you really want to do. So yeah, believe in yourself, but try to put those nerves aside, and you'll make it through it. You got this.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, thank you to Tessa and Gustavo for sharing all this great information with us. Thank you for Sam for being my first mate, and thank you to all our guests for your great questions, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you all, and thank you to our speakers. If you have any feedback, we'd love to hear what you have to say. I've added the link on the screen, and you can find the link in the chat. For this specific event, it's 16696. And if you enjoyed today's session, Jim will be back next Thursday with another Sea of Nerds session with interns. The link can be found in the chat as well as on the screen. Thank you, everyone. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.